We're going to dig now into one of our top business stories this morning. Dubai has risen 3 places in Mercer's annual cost of living index for 2024. We are the 15th most expensive city for expat employees to be based. Very pleased to be joined now by Ted Raffoul, who is the Regional Career and Workforce Products Lead for that business at Mercer. Ted, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Brandy.
Do you want to really quickly just remind us what you guys look at, how you measure things for this index?
Absolutely. So Mercer works with many multinational companies around the world, and we help them when it comes to moving their employees around. And we look at a certain basket of goods and services in different cities, and we try to determine differentials in cost of living and quality of life and other indicators as well. And as a result of that, we also announce annual rankings around cost of living per city.
Right. So you're measuring everything from olive oil to a cup of coffee.
Absolutely.
Dubai is up 3 places this year to number 15. Tell us what we know about why we're rising. What's the main factor in that basket?
Sure. I guess what you know is rental price increases, right? That is the main reason for that price increase, ranking increase. We've seen price increase of about 15% for, let's say, 3-bedroom apartments. We've seen price increases of over 30% for houses. Different increases for different types of properties. But yes, quite a drastic increase when it comes to rental prices.
The thing that struck me most about our rental price rise in this report wasn't just that they were higher. We know that. We're feeling that. It's the pace that our rents are rising at compared to other major cities around the world. Cities that we know rents are climbing, like Singapore.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dubai is a city with the fastest rent increase over the last annual period out of all major cities in the world, right? So quite unusual. And if you look at the other cities that rose that high as well, you're talking Hong Kong, you're talking Singapore, generally there's a lack of space in those cities. There's always been a consistent problem when it comes to supply. I guess, you could speculate there's a similar problem in Dubai as well, but there's also massive demand in Dubai. I think that's where demand is potentially outpacing supply. But generally, you'll see that this sort of rent increase is unusual for cities such as Dubai, where you have the space to grow.
Right. So, just to put that in comparison for people, we're looking at you look at a 3-bed property, don't you? Yeah. 15% increase. Singapore average increase 10%. And we know that Singapore over the last couple of years has had some of the world's highest increases in accommodation. New York, as you mentioned, 6%. Hong Kong is 7%. We're not in the top 10, though, when it comes to being the most expensive. It's still all about Europe. What's keeping us out of the top 10 most expensive cities?
Yeah, so you look at the top 10, you'll primarily see, you'll see the 2 Asian cities, Singapore and Hong Kong, and then most of the other cities are actually European cities, mostly in Switzerland, London as well being in the top 10. Part of it is currency exchange rates. So you'll see that sometimes there's fluctuation in rankings purely because of currencies, but effectively, the main reasons why those cities have stayed up and continue to stay up as well is not just on rental prices, but inflation, just general average CPI, or consumer price index, has been very high in some of the countries. A lot of it is due to supply chain issues where they're not able to bring in the right products at the right time, and that causes some price increases.
So does it make us less competitive? The other index we've got out this morning, we've got the IMD World Competitiveness Index. We've come in at number 7th. We're doing better in that as well. What does making it more expensive to place your international employees here in Dubai mean for how competitive the city is and where people choose to put people?
Sure. It is obviously a factor to competitiveness. And what I can tell you is that the government actively looks at cost of living and is actively looking at how it could potentially reduce it, right? So it is a factor to have this because obviously if it's more expensive, it's more difficult to bring people in to live and spend their money and time here.
But if we look at the expansions in places like DIFC, we know how full those desks are. We know how full the roads generally are. Mm-hmm. Is it stopping companies from doing it?
So far, no. You still have quite a major purchasing power differential over other countries, right? I think that's what's key here, is that while purchasing power has reduced a bit over the last few years in the UAE, it still is quite high due to the lack of income taxes. It's still quite attractive for employees to be here. Also, while there are some corporate taxes now, generally not as extensive as you see in other countries either. So it is still attractive to be here, absolutely.
Okay, so what kind of equation are companies doing then between the cost of putting people here and the importance of being boots on the ground, of being in market?
So they're looking at a combination of these factors, right? So whatever the tax payments may be, they're looking at a cost of living, but also looking at salaries they need to pay out. And obviously, as cost of living goes up, you see more and more pressure on compensation, right? So they're asking for higher compensation. Now, over the last couple of years, we haven't seen necessarily compensation move up as fast as prices increase, right? So we're clearly seeing, according to our surveys, we're clearly seeing a reduction in purchasing power. That said, generally, purchasing power here is still, for the most part, higher than many other countries.
Okay, a couple of things that stuck out to me in this report. Not quite sure about, made me scratch my head. Abu Dhabi coming in quite a way down from Dubai's 15th place at 43rd. Is there really such a difference in the cost of living between the two cities?
It's mostly around rental prices. So what we see is that Dubai rental prices in the last few years have risen significantly above what you'll see in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi hasn't actually risen that much in the last couple of years. We haven't seen much of a rise according to our surveys. Now again, our surveys we look at a very specific set of properties, but we haven't really seen much of a rise in Abu Dhabi.
Okay, well, the other big recruitment and talent retention story that we have had in the last couple of years has obviously been Saudi. Riyadh as well, we're hearing about rents and cost of living, and yet Riyadh and Jeddah only just making it into the top 100 most expensive cities. How so?
What you also have to keep in mind is that when we look at these rankings, we're looking at a global ranking with all cities in the world. Inflation has been very, very high in most cities around the world. What we haven't realized living in Dubai or in UAE generally is that the average CPI in most countries has been very high in the high single digits or sometimes in double digits. We haven't necessarily seen that in the UAE except for rental prices in particular. So when you're looking at CPI of, let's say, high single digits or low double digits in other cities, that increases the entire rank, that increases their ranking quite significantly. Riyadh, of course, we're seeing a big influx of population now. They're attracting a lot of people. We are expecting them to move up in their rankings fast over time, but so far, not so much.
Okay. Before I let you go, we've got 1 minute left with you. The other thing that you look at, well, many things you look at in this report, but you look at the cost versus the quality of living. How does Dubai do that?
It does quite well because while it has a high cost of living, it also does rank quite high when it comes to quality of life. So what we've been trying to do over the last couple of years is looking at a ratio of cost to quality, right? And to see where different cities stack up, where's the best cities for you to live in. And Dubai, I mean, we don't have an official ranking for it yet, but Dubai stacks up quite well.
And Ted Raffoul, Regional Career and Workforce Products Business Lead at Mercer, speaking to us this morning as they release the 2024 Mercer Annual Cost of Living Index. Dubai rising 3 places up to the 15th most expensive city in the world to place your international staff. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Dubai Eye 103.8.
Join the conversation.